Thank you for letting me be here and inviting me. This is something. I'm a big fan of yours. I actually am a big fan of a lot of what you've done, but prior to even PXG, with like the way you grew your brands. So I guess my first question to you is, what made you decide to start a golf company?
You know, I ask myself that all the time. The deal was, first of all, I've always been a golf aficionado.
Yeah.
In love with the game, right? Never very good at it, but definitely in love with it. Anyhow, I was also I would buy a lot of golf equipment. A lot of golf.
That's what I've heard.
I mean, a lot of golf equipment. When I started making money, you know, I had friends of mine who would buy fancy cars. I would other guys who would go to Vegas, get comp this and that, the other thing. I bought golf clubs. So I would buy the new stuff when it came out, and I'd be over at cool clubs, getting different shafts on it and having it modified and so forth. And those guys don't exactly work cheap.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd spend about $100,000 a year, then 200, and then, you know, I told the media that the years before I started PXG that I spent over $200,000 a year on golf clubs, because that's what it seemed to me. And so I thought, you know, I better check and make sure that's true. So I had my assistant start pulling the invoices. We stopped at $300,000.
Seriously?
For the year before I bought PXG. And it had nothing to do with R&D at PXG. It's just I bought it because, you know, I like to try everything.
Yeah, you want to check it out.
Yeah, and then see what I can do to optimize it and so forth. That said, I was on the after I had bought Scottsdale National, and you know, a lot of the guys that play here, you know, they're pretty well heeled. So you know, and their golf game is very important to them. So I'm on the range, and I'm watching these guys, and I mean, they would paint themselves blue if it took 2 strokes off their score, right? And then the clubs, I mean, you know, they're willing to whatever it takes.
Exactly.
So I was there with my buddy Gabe Yerstead, and Gabe said, you know, you friends with you know Mike Nicolette? I said, yeah, I know Mike. He said, you ought to talk to him. So I talked to Mike, and I said, Mike, you know, what would you do if, I mean, you know, why does it takes so long to develop golf? I mean, why aren't you clubs significantly better each and every year? And Ping's clubs are made well, they're as good as anybody's, and you know, they're, except for mine. You know, he said that, you know, they had, you know, tight development schedules and budgets, price points they had to hit, this, that, and the other thing. So I said, suppose you didn't have any cost constraints, you didn't have to worry about price points, you didn't have any time constraints, you know, what would you do? Do you think you could really make a big leap forward in the performance of golf clubs each year? And he goes, man, I'd sure like to give it a try. That was the genesis of PXG.
Just like your love of the game and your love of the technology and getting the right clubs to help you, and then also knowing like there's a huge gap. And that's one of the things we were talking about today, is myself and a couple other media people here, about how what's so great about PXG is you're on your own timetable. You're not on the timetable of like everybody else. So if you have something great that's going to come out, you want to bring out to the people, you're going to do that if it's ready to go, instead of waiting like a year or 2 years or whatever the cycle is.
Well, you know, we were talking with, you know, we have one of the big golf retailers, you know, many big stores and so forth, want to carry our clubs. And, you know, we actually thought about it a little bit. And, you know, then they said, well, you know, we need to be involved in the development, and we need to be, you know, work with you on what the prices are going to be and this and that and the other thing. And
what did you say?
Now we give them the big adios.
You're like, see, no thank you.
Well, it's just because it's very counter to everything that we do.
It's the opposite.
Right, exactly.
How are you guys able to bring such amazing technology to market so quickly?
Well, a couple reasons. First, because we have no constraints and no timetables, our engineers and scientists, if you will, aren't pressured. And so we're in a very relaxed environment. They don't say, you know, I gotta have to have an idea in 2 months. Well, then it's not like that. You know, they have an idea when they have an idea, and then it either works or it don't, and there you go. And we have no budgetary constraints on what they can spend when it comes to that idea, you know, and also to implement that idea. I mean, I believe we spend almost twice on our clubs what our competitors do.
Oh, I believe
Yeah,
that.
you know, if you look at our Gen 6 irons or Sugar Daddy wedges, our irons are triple to 5 times forged, the whole iron, and then they're milled. Nobody does that. I mean, not one single company does that,
No way.
but us. We're the only ones that do that, and all you got to do is hit them once. You know exactly why we do it.
What amazes me is I hit the Gen 6 irons a month ago, and I was hitting another brand, and just the distance and dispersion were like off the chart. Like it was tighter dispersion, further distance, and I was like, what the heck? And then even today, I was very impressed with what we did because I was, yeah.
It's a hell of a driver, isn't it?
Yeah, you may tell you this is here, like my very first, no joke, my very first shot with the new driver, and I had an 0311 Gen 6 that was fitted 3 months ago, right? Same shaft, different head, switch up the heads. He said my carry went up like from like 250 to 280, and I was like, holy crap, like it blew my mind. I've never seen that before.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wish I could hit mine.
Yeah. Well, that's like 1 of 5 for me, and then I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then next one I didn't get so hot, but I was very impressed. It's a beautiful head too.
Yeah. Well, you know, we did a number of things differently. We had a breakthrough this time. We literally had a breakthrough, and so much so we released that we stopped the Gen series name on this particular set of woods, and we called it Black Ops.
I love the name. The name's really badass.
Yeah. Well, we like it too. And so there you go. But I mean, that's what we do. We are just dedicated to making good stuff, using the best manufacturing techniques, you know, using the best development techniques, the best performing metals. You know, if you cut one of our irons open, you know, it looks like a Marine Corps barracks.
Really?
Oh
yeah.
You cut one of our competitors open, it looks like a dumpster.
A hard dumpster.
Yeah. Now, you know, one of the other things I was going to tell you is on our Gen 6 irons, you know, we have a filled cavity.
Yeah.
But the way we do that filled cavity, we go through a number of steps to make sure that stuff is never going to separate, to make sure it's perfectly filled, to make sure that the pressure against the face is exactly right. I mean, this is nothing trivial,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, this is not like some guy named Benji with a hose just popping it in there. So we've had one of our competitors, you know, saying that our irons are not accurate because the trampoline effect on the face.
Yeah.
And the face that we use is the thinnest face in golf by far. Nobody can figure out how we do that, right? So anyhow, that's what we do, and we always knew that those things were damn accurate. And then Golf Magazine, Golf.com, tested 23 different irons. I mean, all the new irons that came out this year, ours was, of course, the most accurate.
For sure.
And of course, the most forgiving.
Yeah, they're phenomenal irons. I mean, I'm so impressed with the clubs. I got your new putter too, and that thing is dead accurate. The first time I used it out at the course, I think I one putted like five shots. I'm like, that never happens, you know. And I mean, it does, I guess, when you have the right clubs.
Wow. So which putter are you using? Bad Attack, man?
Bad Attack, yeah.
There you go. That's very
I love
popular.
that thing's, and I was using another brand before that, and yeah, it's now in my bag in the garage in the corner, which won't be taken out anytime soon.
No, we put that new filler in it.
Yeah.
Absorbs some of the, you know, the top, and
It's
feels
dead
good.
accurate. It's like a sniper rifle. It's like, I mean,
You know?
how'd you come up with the different names of your clubs?
It's one of those things where, you know, one time I was supposed to be back on base when I was in the Marine Corps, and they said, here's your money for your pay. Be back by midnight. Well, I was back at 3 a.m, and I was immediately arrested.
Really?
Yeah, and you know, and it's the same answer I'm going to give you that I gave the officer today, the captain I was in front of when he was ready to throw my ass in the brig. He said, "Why can't you be back here by midnight?" I said, "I don't know."
What made you join the Marines? I know you enlisted, right?
Yeah, I
but
did.
why did you choose Marines over other branches?
You know, here's the way that started. Okay. Here I am. I'm a senior in high school.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I'm going to fail and repeat the year, right? And it's like in March, and after gym, I'm at my locker, and it's two of my buddies come up to me and they go, "Hey Bob, we're going to go down and talk to the Marine Corps recruiter on Conklin Street. Why don't you join us?" And I said, "Okay." So I went down there. 3 of us went down there, and you know, we talked to the guy, and we all joined the Marine Corps. You know, they had to check my grades before they'd accept me, and I thought, oh shit, well I guess I'm not in the Marine Corps. Well, you know, I could have never went to school and they'd have still took me. This is back during the height of the Vietnam War in 1968.
Okay, that's like
So,
offensive.
so anyhow, when I got my orders to go to report to Paris Island,
Yeah.
I showed all my teachers and they passed me, which is how I graduated from high school, so I guess I owe my diploma to the Marine Corps. A lot of thought went into, I mean.
Hey, it was all strategy. It was all strategy. You know what I love? When I heard your story. You were telling the story about when you got into programming and like when you went to Stanford library and like you were just doing like you were doing your accounting, but then it like you pretty much taught yourself.
What I did was I was an accountant then.
Yeah.
And I was living in Baltimore, and I was looking at a city in Redwood City. Looking at a company in Redwood City, California, because I would schedule their assets and then give them to the guys back at the home office. So when I finished up, I had 12 hours before my flight. So I wound up at the Stanford campus, and I bought a book on how to program in the basic computer language. And I read that while I was waiting, and then wrote my first program on the way back. And it just so happened I had a dumb terminal in my office because our company was owned by Control Data. This was in 1975.
How big was the computer? As big as this room?
Probably, and had less memory than this coffee cup. And it just was a lucky thing. So I practiced on that teletype machine and got my stuff to work, and then it became a hobby. And then I bought an Apple II and started working in Pascal. Yeah. And then when the IBM PC came out, I sold my Apple and bought an IBM, and then I started my own business with it in 1984, and I haven't worked for anybody since.
What I think is so amazing is that the way you have taught yourself along the way and gotten smarter and better on everything you've done, and it's just like the pure entrepreneurial heart of it, and then also the not like wanting that knowledge, right? Like you wanted to learn how to program that yourself, so rely on somebody else to do it for you, and then it's like building on that.
Well, everything, when I grew up, I wasn't in the, a lot of us grow up tough, but I grew up really tough. Yeah. And so the one thing that is covered is a little story that kind of wraps around my whole career. Yeah. Is I had to teach myself to tie my shoes. And so I figured that out myself. Now the way I tie my shoes, it
Everybody else does it.
looks like I'm drunk when I do it, but it works and it's quick.
It does. It gets the job done.
There you go. Yeah.
Now, one thing I thought was really amazing is how you'd worked in a steel mill. What was that like?
Working in a steel mill.
My dad did the same thing.
Well, it was different. I'll tell you what, I was in pretty good shape because
I bet you were really buff.
I used to have to big lathes, huge lathes that would mill down these steel beams into shafts for ocean-going liners. I mean, these things were huge,
Yeah.
right? Then they had these huge pits underneath where all the chips would go into. Well, I was one of the guys that would, one of the Einsteins that would jump underneath of that and shovel those chips out. Man, they'd be blue hot. They'd burn you left and right. And then when you're done, you had to pick that heavy ass can up with chips.
It's super loud in there, right?
Yeah, yes. And so, man, I'll tell you what, I was strong as a bull when I was working there, but, I decided to go to college.
That's my dad. My dad did the same thing. He worked in a steel mill to put himself through college. Like, he's first generation American. So it's like, he tells you, he's like, yeah, that damn steel mill is so loud. He goes, that's why I think I lost all my hearing at. It was so loud in there. Just the banging and the banging.
Well, you notice I'm wearing hearing aids, so between that, Vietnam, and rock music.
I heard, okay, one more thing. I heard that you bought a helicopter, like a military helicopter.
No, not true.
That's not true. My buddy was telling me, I'm like, he said.
No, what happened was, I had a buddy of mine that I was doing business with,
Yeah.
arranged to pick me up on Long Island in a
The Huey?
no, not a Huey, but just a regular helicopter.
Yeah.
And when he did, it was a black helicopter, and he had PXG put on the sides of the helicopter.
Oh, that's cool.
And so everybody's just going, "You got a helicopter?"
You're like, yeah, I did.
And got a new car. This one girl says to me, "You still got to learn how to fly that helicopter." Oh my.
Well, I probably have to go because my 3 minutes are up.
Well, we had a good time.
Well, hey, I
didn't we?
appreciate you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, buddy.
And your hospitality and letting me be here, and I really appreciate it. So
You're
thank
the
you.
best.